over here.
Yeah, it is on. Hello, and welcome to challenge number 3 on Mother's Day. This one is for Josh. And we've got 2 guns, but still only 3 bullets, so let's see how many shots Josh can have. For the first 3, he can cover his face, if he wants to.
Do you want to see Josh?
Right.
Too late. Too late, we started. Josh?
Don't worry about it.
Josh?
Josh, be prepared. Don't say "ow," remember?
Sisters.
Ah, they were closest, weren't they?
They were.
They were, because they were the babies of the family, weren't they?
Yeah.
Sylvan mum.
The beefs. Mum always said, being the baby, she used to get terribly tormented by her brother Ted.
Oh.
My nan was born in 1937, the youngest of 5. She belonged to a poor family in Kent. Her father, Edward Hewitt, her mother Annie, her sisters Nora and Audrey, her brother Ted, and her sister Sylvia. Her father worked in the Merchant Navy, and on one trip he did not return.
Aidan, he was buried at Aidan.
Where's that then?
He had a burst appendix or something like that, and they couldn't get him off the ship. So he
He
died
wasn't
out.
well when he left, and apparently Nanny told him not to go, but he said no, we're going to go.
I
'cause
bet
they're
that's
very poor.
Norfolk.
They had to.
So he insisted on going. He thought he'd be fine, and all the time he was on ship, he really wasn't well, and it got worse and worse as they neared port. And then I think they got him off, but it was too late. A few years before Nanny died, when I asked her, she said they didn't even have a ceremony for her.
Oh, it's awful.
I said, did you not even have a memorial service? She said no.
Oh.
So I said, so you didn't have a funeral or anything? She said no. I thought, how can you have closure when you don't have something like that? Their dad was a bit and he not only had one family, he then went on to have another family and left them.
Oh, bloody hell.
And their mum died as an alcoholic because of the result and left them orphaned. Because the others went to the poorhouse, didn't they? All sick. And they had a terrible time. Didn't they get fostered by some horrible woman that beat them?
No.
So you look how smart he's there. Look.
Yeah.
So because he was brought up on a training ship for about 5 or 6 years, no, probably longer than that.
Yeah.
He then went into the Navy.
Oh, that's nice, that one. Yeah.
And then he left the Navy and he went into the Merchant Navy.
Oh no, I thought it was sworn the first time. Another brief interval. Interview? I thought it was interval. No, the interval's now going to be Josh building. That's how Josh is getting them.
He used to have a catapult.
My granddad was born in 1931, an only child to Flo and Fred. My mum tells me he loved the war, playing in dugouts in black shots, and then playing in the rubble of a crashed plane. He always spoke so fondly of his time in the Navy during his national service. During his 20s, he would ride in his motorbike, which he didn't have for too long, often taking my nan with him. He would join P&O at 14 and continue working with them until his retirement. My granddad's dad was named Fred too. He worked on a farm from 14, and during the war he would drive lorries in the pitch black supplying produce to London, and then became a home guard. We don't know a lot about his family, we only have this picture of his dad in a fancy bowler hat. Flo, my granddad's mum, was one of 4 children. Gert, Elsie and William were her siblings, all belonging to Mr. and Mrs. Hill, who lived in Gillingham.
See, I think that is... it's Fred's grandmother in Gillingham, so that was the house that was bombed.
Really?
And that must have been
Daddy.
Granddad's mum. No, Granddad's nan that died.
Her parents were killed in 1940 during the bombings in the area. It is said that William moved in with Gert and died young, never getting over his parents' death. Even my granddad, who was young at this time, must have been affected. being named a treasure by his late grandmother. My granddad's aunt Gert had children herself, including a daughter named Pam, who would write to my granddad. I've noticed several letters the cousins sent to each other, such as birthday cards in old printed fashion. The cousin Pam would later have children of her own, one of which was Steve Grant. Steve would go on to be a part of the band Tight Fit, who grew famous after their rendition of the song The Lion Sleeps Tonight in 1982. My granddad and Nan met young. They would marry and then move into a semi-detached bungalow in Chadwell St Mary, Essex. It wasn't long before they had their first child, my aunt, Wendy, in 1963, and a few years later they had my mum, Angela, in 1967. My mum often recounts their holidays to Norfolk, caravan campsites, her dad's particular driving, and her walk to school.
I think we went to Cornwall.
Oh, I can't remember that.
I can remember going to Cornwall and this goat used to run after us.
My aunt Wendy would later marry Paul, and my mum would later marry my dad, Mark. And then, at the start of the 90s, grandchildren would begin to arrive. Holly, Jordan and Jared, Hannah, Jacob, Harley, Joshua, and me. Our childhood was filled to the brim. Easter egg hunts, Christmases, Boxing Day, New Year's, summer, Sundays, Grandad falling asleep at family gatherings, the Simpsons CD in Nan's car. This was my family. My nan was diagnosed with cancer. She went through several stages of chemo, even slipping to a coma during one round. She wanted to last another Christmas. She died in February 2013. My granddad went on for another 8 years, although housebound. He was grumpy when I was a kid, but in this time I grew incredibly close to him. He mellowed and his humour would blossom. He would die in September 2021 in the same hospice my nan died in, at the age of 90. The oldest of us cousins, Holly, would be involved in an accident in early 2022, and after a short battle would pass away in the February of the same year. She was 31.